What's up, you guys? Welcome back to another Because of Sales podcast episode. This week, we've got another in-person episode with none other than Jack McColl, CEO, founder of Credit Stacking. Credit Stacking is a business that helps people take advantage of business credit to build businesses faster, better, safer, all of the above. But the reason I had Jack on is because he's just a pretty well-versed business owner that's sold a lot of different things in his time. We kind of go into his past on how he ended up with credit stacking, kind of like coaching consulting model, really early player in some of these huge e-commerce trends, started other service-based businesses while in colleges, scaled those, sold out of one, and now running credit stacking. And yeah, I mean, we just kind of go through like the entrepreneurial journey and how sales played a role in his life. And he's quite successful. So flew to Austin on his plane with his brother. Planes aren't cheap. So before we get into this episode, you guys, please go down below and subscribe to our newsletter. It is free. If you're a sales rep, sales manager, director, business owner, and you sell something to somebody, we want to show you every single week how the best people in the world are doing it. Not how they did it, how they're doing it right now. We're going to do that through news, tools, tricks, tips, memes, AI stuff, social posts, articles, anything that's shared on the internet far and wide, so you don't have to go look for it, dig around, and try to stay on the cutting edge. We just send it to you, and you can read it in less than 5 minutes every single Wednesday with your morning coffee. It's 100% free. You can unsubscribe at any time, so go down below, take 5 seconds, subscribe, stay up to date. Now into the podcast. You guys, welcome back to another episode of the Because of Sales podcast. In this episode, we've got Jack McColl all the way from Salt Lake City. Jack, thank you for coming.
What's up, Dylan? Thanks for having me. Good to be here.
So we were talking out there a little bit, came here from Salt Lake City on your own plane, the furthest flight you've done, you and your brother both. Was it scary? What was that like? You're the first guest to have a pilot's license, I want to say.
That's great. Yeah, it's been the farthest we've flown for sure. It's a Cessna 6-seater airplane, and it's more fun than scary, but there's definitely a risk component to it. But you take certain precautions, like check the weather, check the winds, etc. But it's fun for sure. It's nice to have that freedom to just bounce around in your own plane on your own terms, not deal with TSA. Is it more effort? It's, sometimes it's a little bit more effort, but it's more fun. And as we get more comfortable, hopefully next year get a bigger plane, a little bit faster, make it even more convenient and practical to go places.
And you guys are here in Austin doing kind of just like podcast tour, meeting cool people. I think you said mastermind, stuff like that. So just spreading the word of credit and business and meeting cool people, it sounds like.
Exactly. Doing some podcasts, meeting some really cool people, and just, seeing Austin. We're having a great time for sure. Yeah. And like we bought the airplane as a business airplane. So to get deduction, the 100% of purchase price as bonus depreciation in 2025, we need to justify a certain amount of business hours. So it's perfect. We want to fly, we want to train more, and we also want to do more business. We've been looking for different excuses to go to different cities, and so Austin being one of them.
Not to make this an aviation podcast, but I'm interested, when you're, I guess, classifying business hours for a plane, is that time flying or time that you are gone with the plane?
Time flying. And I think I'm looking forward to this podcast. It's going to be great, but I'm very pro freedom in many different aspects of my life. So we'll talk about business funding, credit, like putting yourself in a good position so you can get access to money, so you can start a business. I think that's a huge component for a lot of people in terms of creating a lot of freedom in their life. Yeah. And then the airplane, like for me, for example, is a different component of freedom. So I do think it's very important for people to define what freedom is for them and then take massive steps on making sure they achieve that. Yeah. And I think things are going to get harder and more difficult in the economy, with AI replacing a lot of jobs and just other economic factors. And so I think people need to be preparing and taking risks now before it gets harder.
Dude, I see you doing all this like tactical training too. The same idea there, huh?
For sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I do a lot of tactical training, and I've been posting a lot less of it because I think some people feel a certain way, and I don't want to put a target on my back, but I'm definitely prepared in that topic of things.
For sure. Well, I told Jack ahead of time for you guys listening, most of you listening are salespeople, managers, business owners who are interested in selling more, just learning what's working for other people that have found success in sales or business. So we are going to talk about 3 things on this episode, and this is kind of the order. One, we're going to talk about Jack's background, how he kind of built up as an early entrepreneur, is now running credit stacking and kind of building on that. The second thing I want to talk about is just a little bit more of the sales side. You know, he's got a sales team, he's got a business, he grows a business. I think some good insight for you guys. And then the third thing is just like his zone of genius, which is the credit stuff as it might apply to you guys as a sales rep or prospective business owner. A lot of you salespeople like to go on and try to start businesses. So that's what we're going to talk about in this one. So Jack, I was doing some research on you. I mean, we met in Japan. I guess we should set the scene. We met in Japan on a ski trip kind of thing, mastermind, a lot of awesome business owners. And my first impression of you and your brother were, yeah, these guys can snowboard. Like, I'm from Texas. I'm not a snowboarder. I've gone and I can like go down the hill, but you guys are like snowboarders. So when I was doing research for this podcast, I'm like, you know, ChatGPT, agent mode, do some research, like tell me stuff I don't know about Jack. And I found like a video from 2014 YouTube of just like, it wasn't like a sponsor me tip. I come from the skateboarding world. So like I kind of get it, but it's different. But you guys rip. And you still do. I've seen those clips on Instagram. I guess like before the entrepreneurship stuff, was that like your main thing?
Yeah. So that 2014 video was probably one you saw on Snowboarder Mag, or at least the video that was posted on Snowboarder Mag. And so at that point, that was just my yearly video. Okay. And so I would make video parts and I was sponsored head to toe by some of the top brands. This was when I was right out of college, so about 21, 22 years old. Yeah. And that was the full-time thing. I would move up to the snowboard resort. I would snowboard, make a bunch of videos, and I was competing in professional contests and winning some of them. But then I realized there's more opportunity for me in business. So that's when I got into entrepreneurship, started my first e-com business, and then went from there. But I do still snowboard. I took a long break, but just got back into it last year and remembered how fun it was. Dude. And I do think it's very important for people to have specific hobbies or sports that they pursue outside of business and outside of personal life. Like I think the sports and hobbies is just so important to be applying yourself to something physically and then seeing a good result from it. It just makes me very happy to do that. I think it's important.
I think putting all your focus and all your attention and effort into just business or just sales is kind of a very dangerous and vulnerable place to be, because when that goes good, it's awesome. When it goes bad, you have no other outlet to like relieve the stress or the pressure, right? And so something like snowboarding for me, skateboarding used to be that. And I kind of picked it up again, but no, I caught that on the research and I was like, that's unique, just like the plane. So you did mention the e-commerce stuff. And if I'm right, dude, you were kind of like really early in the like influencer marketing side of the e-commerce stuff, especially with, I think it was like the hoverboards, right?
Yeah.
And then the inflatable lounge stuff.
Totally.
Right. So I remember when I was in like I think I'm younger than you a little bit. I was in late high school going to college and like e-com drop shipping was the thing, dude. That's what got me into online business. I mean, you actually made it work. I didn't make it work, but what was that like getting into that? And how did you end up in e-com versus like, I don't even know if coaching was big then, but like e-com versus SMMA or marketing agency or something like that?
Yeah. So for me, I met a dude who was importing hoverboards from China and then selling them online through Instagram, through Facebook ads, actually not even Facebook ads yet. And I had 15,000 followers at the time, mainly from snowboarding and some other videography work I was doing at the time. And then we got into business because we saw so much potential together. I had some influence. We got together, we started selling them. And so we imported dozens and dozens of these hoverboards from China into a warehouse in Los Angeles, and then we would sell them from the warehouse. We did really good, and that product was selling like crazy at that time in 2015, 2016, I think, 2015. But one mistake we made at that time is we didn't figure out drop shipping. Like if we figured out drop shipping, it would have saved us so much money on the warehousing. Yeah. On like the shipping, just like the logistics of bringing physical products into one place. My business partner ended up to do something different in e-commerce after that. And he really got good at drop shipping on a different venture after, but we did make a killing. We saw opportunity of like a very hot product and realized we can buy it from China, ship it over here. And what gave us a really good competitive advantage is because we had the best content and the best branding, and we partnered up with other social media influencers. Yeah. And so we kind of had like the Beats brand of hoverboards with the best content, the coolest influencers promoting it. So we were selling them for $1,200 to $1,400 and buying them for like $400. It's like a pretty nice margin. Yeah. And where our competitors were selling them for like $600. And then we did that same model for the next product and the next company we had, which was the inflatable loungers. We bought them for $12 actually. And we just had the best content and the best influencers promoting it.
Yeah.
And so we had a nice margin.
I feel like when this was like 2016-ish or so, kind of give or take, the influencer marketing space, you mentioned you had like 15,000 on Instagram. At the time, that was like so much different than what it is now, right? Like everyone that we know, like just people in this studio right now, like we combined, I don't know how many followers, but like it's very normal for people to have a following now. There's a lot of ways to grow a following, but was that like a superpower at the time to have that kind of like reach? Or
it was very helpful for sure.
Yeah.
Like 15,000 followers back then was like a bigger deal than it is to have like 100,000 followers today. Cause I just feel like the reach and the engagement on someone's page with 100,000 followers is so much less than it like used to be.
I think there's a lot of noise too, dude, because there's so many people making content, some good, some bad, but yeah, it's just harder to cut through the noise too. Anyways, dude, so you kind of go through this e-com stuff, and I saw the highlight on your Instagram talking about your story from back then, and your partner, if I'm not mistaken, was a very big name in the e-com space. If you guys know e-com, maybe you've heard of them, but the next business that you started after that was, I didn't catch too much information on this one, but it was the something Cabo.
Yeah, travel. It was
Cabo.
a tour operating business. We organized Cabo spring break trips for university students. That was the third real venture of selling a product or service.
You ended up selling that business, right?
Yeah.
So you go from e-com, which not drop shipping. When I told you I got into e-com, I was trying to do the drop shipping. I didn't even think about like bringing stuff to me and then sending it. But why did you pivot to like this different model when you kind of learned how to do the drop shipping or the e-com stuff?
Yeah. So when we were doing the inflatable loungers, I was doing the travel stuff on the side. And then it got to a point where the market became saturated on the inflatable loungers, where the market was just getting flooded by all these competitors just undercutting us. And so the margins over the 2 years of doing that just got smaller and smaller. And so I ended up shifting my focus to the travel business. And it was something I was having more fun doing. It was more of a passion project at the beginning, and then we saw some potential in it. So then I shifted my focus to that. It was more so I loved doing it a lot more. And specifically, we just had a specific advantage. Like a lot of the companies will buy or reserve hotel inventory in wholesale up front. But our advantage is we had access to dozens and dozens of timeshare contracts, which basically gave us the room inventory in Cabo at a fraction of the price. And so we were able to sell the same hotel at a fraction of the price compared to our competitors. And so we ended up taking a lot of market share from our competitor, who ended up buying us the year after. And one thing that helped was bringing on a loan to buy more of these contracts and more of this hotel inventory that led to an acquisition. So that was a big aha moment for me, because I saw that borrowing money led to a good thing like an acquisition. The borrowing money allowed us to move quicker, take market share, and then led to an acquisition.
I see the story building here. What kind of loan was it? Similar to what you guys do now, or different? Or
no, it was a family loan, 10% interest. So there's two problems with that.
Yeah.
One, we paid interest on it, which if you're paying 10% interest, it makes it that much harder to be profitable. And then two, getting family involved can be good, can be bad. For us, it was not ideal because our dad was running in the office and yelling at us, telling us what to do. And we're like, Dad, we got this. Just get out of here. But again, it was a good experience to see how quick we could have moved, or how quick we did move. And so when it came to the next business venture, which was e-com drop shipping, then I got access to this new credit product which we'll talk about. And I put that into the e-com stores, and they ripped. And it solved all my financing issues that I've had on my first 3 businesses.
Interesting. So besides maybe a competitor swinging a steak in front of you and saying like, hey, here's the payday if you want it, what made you not give up, but like what made you give over that business and move to the next thing?
It was a good opportunity. It was a very difficult business, and it was very stressful. And the business that acquired us was getting acquired by a bigger company at the same time. And I think it was, they raised either 20 or $40 million. Definitely tens of millions of dollars. So this company from the UK is coming in with a bunch of money and trying to take over the student travel industry. So we saw the challenges if we didn't sell, the competition we would have faced the next few
Mhm.
years with the chance of getting run into the ground completely. So we're like, let's team up with this company. So we sold it to them, and then we worked for that company, my brother
Got
and
it.
I, for a year and a half. And so we also saw it as an opportunity to learn a bunch, which I do think when people have W-2 jobs or they're working for someone else, like either should be making a ton of money or you're learning a bunch or somewhere in the middle, but you need to be valuing the experience you're getting.
Yeah.
And so for us, we were making pretty good money. We were in outside sales, making good commissions, but we were learning so much from working for that big company. And our sales manager that we were working for was super admirable.
Yeah.
And like the experience was incredible. We were building representative teams at the top universities on the West Coast. So like messaging a bunch of college kids, trying to figure out who these leaders were, organizing a representative team, and then going to fly out there and pitching this group of 20 reps on why they should go back to their fraternities or sororities and bring all their friends.
Interesting.
So we got the experience of building the team, the teams building experience, speaking in front of people and more. But then after a year, we started to feel like, I keep saying we because my brother and I do a lot of things together. He's my partner in a lot of my businesses. We realized we weren't learning as much. And so that was our cue to move on to the next opportunity, which actually was just quitting the job and moving to Bali. And we ended up doing Airbnb arbitrage. But the key there was like when things became repetitive and we were just collecting a paycheck, things were repetitive, we weren't learning as much. That was our cue to jump to the next thing, which I think is very important for a lot of people because they'll get stuck in these jobs that maybe they're good at first and then they kind of plateau and then maybe they have some golden handcuffs on and they're like, it's comfortable, it's chill, but that can be a trap.
They're just collecting a paycheck, not really much else. What was it like for you? This might be relevant to the audience. It sounds like you were playing the recruiting game pretty heavily, especially in like a college scene. What was it like, I guess, selling the idea of sales to college kids? Because there's people in the door-to-door space that probably do that. What was that like for you?
It's interesting because we were selling the reps for them to go sell their friends, right? It was cool. We had great incentives for them to do so. We had a great product and great incentives. And we were pretty cool guys to work with, we felt like. And so we'd go in there. We were the cool guys trying to help them be the cool guys and girls to go back to their organizations and be like, oh, this trip is awesome. We're definitely going to sign up. And so it was cool. We really had to make sure that we had the leader of each of these fraternities and sororities and other organizations. Because if you're not working with the leader, then the leader that you didn't get, they're going to influence the group to do something else. So a lot of good market intel and just making sure you had the best person who was going to be going to bat for you in their house.
So a lot more strategy versus just like going up to someone's front door, knocking and trying to, sit at the dinner table or something like that, right? You're like kind of mapping out. It's like, all right, these people we want to sell for us. In order for that to happen, we have to like, get on the good side of this person and this person. And then how many campuses were you doing this across?
Probably upwards of 20. Yeah. So the big ones, USC, University of Washington, Washington State, Stanford, UCLA, SDSU.
Well, dude, so you mentioned kind of the next thing, the Airbnb, went over to Bali. If I did my research right, COVID really threw a wrench in that. And with the Airbnb stuff, is that where you started to experiment a little bit more with the credit and the funding?
That's when I started to learn about business credit. I wasn't using the business credit in the Airbnb business, but it was around that time where I started to learn some of the basic concepts, and that started my journey in business credit. I always had a few good personal credit cards. I was accumulating the points. I was good with the personal credit cards, or I was relatively good, and I was starting to learn about the business credit cards. And we used cash for the Airbnb arbitrage model in Bali. We lived there for 3 months and then COVID happened and we had to leave. And at that time, I remember lockdowns completely happened across the country. And I was like, well, I want to be somewhere nice for that to happen. So I got a beach house in Hawaii, locked down for a month there. And that's when we realized the Airbnb business in Bali was done because no one could travel there. So I thought, what are the two best industries would do the best in these conditions? And for me at the time, it was drop shipping e-commerce because people are going to be ordering a lot of products online. And two, how do I sell an info product? What am I good at that I can help someone with? And for me at that time, it was on business credit and how to get 0%. And I started the e-com a little bit before because I was getting the 0% interest business credit, which I then used to fund the e-com drop shipping stores. And in a short period of time, it was making epic revenue and good profit. And so I saw what it did. It was like, get access to 0% credit, put that into a cash flowing business, and then you make profit. So it's a very easy just concept. And I'm like, okay, cool. This is the info product that I can put together and help a lot of people, because these concepts that I cracked the code on, it's not information taught anywhere. And I was very fortunate enough to get a lot of this information from these business relationship managers who are connected to the underwriters. So I started to understand what they wanted to see on these credit profiles. And then I customized my credit profile and other people's credit profiles. Then it became very easy to get these high limit cards.
Yeah. No, I could see that. So you have, at that point, you have a business in e-commerce that you said is hitting awesome revenue numbers. And then you also have maybe the most scalable business of all time, which is info and coaching kind of thing going simultaneously. From what I understand now, you are still all in the like credit coaching space, but not as much in e-com unless you keep it low key. So what made you go all in with that?
I'm currently not in e-com, just more of consulting different offers.
Sure.
I have 3 different offers in the consumer credit industry, the coaching offer being the number one that I'm focusing most of my time on. I have a done for you funding service where we help people get these 0% cards on a done for you approach, but I'm just a bigger believer in teaching people it, because I think not only is getting access to $100,000, it is easiest to do that through these 0% interest business credit cards. No tax returns, no collateral. All you need is good credit. It's absolutely incredible. Like not even verified income, you can get this type of capital. When I learned these things, it completely solved all of my financing issues I've had on my first 3 businesses. The first business I self-funded. Second business, I brought in an equity partner that had problems. Third business, which is the travel business, we had the family loan that came with interest that had its own problems. So when I learned about this and then I saw what I did in these e-commerce stores, it just completely changed the game for me. And so I knew that if I was an entrepreneur for that long and I didn't even know about this credit product and didn't know how to crack the code until I did, there has to be so many other people that have no idea how to take advantage of this. And then I also saw how the banks were taking advantage of people, and some people would be trapped paying 30% interest, which pissed me off. And so that's another reason I'm so passionate about it, is because 1, it was so helpful to me. And 2, I don't like seeing other people take advantage of the banks. Didn't like seeing that the banks were taking advantage of people. So now I like helping people take advantage of the banks for their own gain so they can scale their business and create financial independence.
Kind of like a little bit of a Robin Hood play. Like,
a little bit.
Entirely, but like the banks have their own system and they take advantage of people, or they're just not super favorable to like the average consumer. And there is a way to get more favorable terms, and you're basically bridging the gap.
And an example I like to give is like people who understand the tax code don't pay tax. You know, they understand the tax code and do specific things like invest in real estate, invest in certain things, then they don't pay tax because they understand the game. They know how to play it. It's very hard to figure out how to play the credit game because it's not taught anywhere. Just like tax, it's not really taught anywhere unless you do your own research. And so I became very good at the credit game, and now I teach people how to take advantage of it so they don't have to pay interest. They get all these credit card points, travel the world for free and luxury. I love it.
All right, guys, quick break in this podcast for the sponsor, the Serial Sales Community. The Serial Sales Community is a business that I've been running for 3 years and 5 months now. That business focuses on one thing, and one thing primarily, which is getting people like yourself. If you're listening to this, you are definitely the target audience. Getting people like yourself from a sales opportunity or business that you maybe aren't necessarily in love with, or you feel like you've outgrown, into something in the 1099 remote world. This is typically selling online via Zoom for coaches, consultants, agency owners, software companies as a 1099 contractor. With contractor status, aside from tax benefits, comes a little bit more schedule flexibility, earning flexibility, and things that are definitely attractive to a high-performing sales rep. Now, given this is a heavily commission-based space, it definitely pays to do it right the first time. 0 times 0 in a commission sense is 0. And making 0 when you're used to making a lot is no fun. avoid that. Go down below to the second link in the description here. Check out our page, see what we're about. If you book with our team, mention Because of Sales, we'll give you 5% off any membership you choose. Now, back to the podcast. I could see you having the similar opinion on just like the system, right? They don't teach you about credit. They tell you need to pay tax. They don't teach you how to play the tax game, right?
It's BS.
I mean, I have a bachelor's degree. I think you do as well. Like they don't mention anything about credit ever, or tax, or real estate, or investing, unless you take maybe some weird classes. But like the big classes, they're not telling you about that. And so when you got into the info game, the coaching game with the credit stuff, was there anybody else doing this at the time, or were you like bringing this to the market from the beginning?
I was quite early, but there were some people doing it, some people teaching it more on a basic level. It wasn't completely brand new, but I believe I'm considered one of the pioneers. Like our name is credit stacking. That's kind of been the industry standard name of the strategy. Almost like Kleenex, right? Everyone says it's a Kleenex, but it's actually a brand, not a tissue.
Exactly.
So there was some things I've learned from some other people in the space for sure. To make a point on that, I do think it's highly beneficial when you're in an industry to be friends with other industry leaders so you guys can collaborate on ideas together. Like right now, I have a group chat of like 10 other industry leaders and we collaborate all the time on different strategies. So I share something that I'm finding in the space that helps my competitor, and then they're sharing something that, you know, helps their competitor, being me. But it doesn't matter because we're collaborating and we're pushing the whole industry up together.
When you said industry leaders, I thought you were talking about leaders in different industries collaborating. You're talking about all the people in the same industry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Totally.
Cool. So at that point, if the knowledge is available, like, you know, it's 2025, more people are familiar with this, and you could show them, the guy next door could show them, someone else could show them, maybe you're a little bit better, but like, what's the real edge in, you know, the business that you run, the credit stacking, the coaching? What's the edge of working with you guys versus someone else who claims to also know the credit stacking game?
I mean, I think you want to look at the data sets that people are working with. Like, for example, I've had 3,000 people in my program. And so when you have data from that many people, you can make stronger correlations of what works and what doesn't. If someone's worked with 100 people, their data set is smaller. So I think now data is more important than ever. I think that's very important. And then you look at the testimonies and like, oh, if 100 people on these videos right now on this landing page are all saying, oh, I got $100,000 and I did great things with it, that's a lot of testimonies.
Yeah.
So look at the data, look at the testimonies, reviews.
Definitely. Just to like touch on it, because I know people are interested. I've seen, you know, you guys you've done pretty well with your business. You've been running it for at least 4 years. When did you start it?
2020, I started the offer.
Cool. So I've seen you guys, you know, on the stage at ClickFunnels and with the plaques, and you guys have like a good business in that. When you started, I'm sure there's so many evolutions of the product that you're giving and the way that you structure it and what your team looks like, as well as evolutions in credit itself, which I want to talk about. But selling info early days, was it like, hey, you know, friend, I have this product, come buy it from me and I'll help you do this thing? Or how did you like get that business off the ground?
So my first step was to get testimonies, because for coaching offers that I joined in the past, like one at that point, I remember it was the testimonies that sold me.
Yeah.
I'd go to the page, I'd see 100 testimonies. I'm like, okay, well, then clearly it's going to work for me.
Right.
So I'm like, I need testimonies. So I reached out to some people. Maybe I even posted on my story at the time. I said, hey, you know, something like I'm doing 10, maybe 5, you know, free strategy calls for people to help them build credit. I've been doing this myself and I want to help you. So I do this free strategy call for 30 minutes. And at the end of it, I just asked them if this was valuable, if you could just shoot me a quick testimony that mentions the value, hype me up a little bit. I'd really appreciate that. And so I did that until I had 10 really solid testimonies. And then I launched my offer.
Yeah.
And also by doing that for free, even like before creating the course or creating the offer, by talking to potential target demographic, you start to understand what's landing well with them. You're understanding what they need. You're understanding what is the most helpful to them. So don't build the product and then sell it to customers. Like, you know, talk to prospects, talk to your target demo, do that market intel. And so by doing that, I was getting the testimonies, learning about my potential customer, and then I put the offer together.
I mean, you crush the social content now. It sounds like even at the end of or during the snowboarding days, you were crushing it then. I'd assume you've been crushing it all in between there. I bet it helped a lot for people to not only see the testimonies, but to see that you were like a product of it yourself. Like you're going and building businesses. You mentioned the e-commerce business. I don't know how much you use that in like, hey, if you are interested, this is what I'm doing with it. It's not off the table for anybody else. I'm nobody special. Would you say that by you being a product and showing people that you are having success with this yourself, in addition to testimonies, that made a significant lift? Or was it more so like, hey, look at these random people that you don't know, like listen to them and take their word?
I think a combination of both for sure. Because I think the person you're trying to learn it from, you should ideally, align quite well with and be quite relatable to that person. So you're like, okay, if I see what he's doing with it and it's working for him and I want to learn from him, to be inspired by that, I think is important. But also I think having unique stories from several other people that you could potentially relate to as well, I think both is really important. I would not want to learn from someone who's not doing it in practice.
I took the same approach, and we're going to talk about how like sales reps who want to start their own business or side hustles can use this. So on that same note of like looking at the next level, when I started my remote sales community, I knew that testimonials were the thing that would separate me, right? And so I started at $9 per month group chat. I actually like lost money on this, right? But I got the testimonials, and then, we just up the price, made the product better, got more testimonials, and it just started to flywheel to where now it's like we charge like a higher ticket, just like a lot of people in this space, and less friction, better results. It pays to get the testimonials early for sure, whether you're in the coaching space or I'm thinking of some random business like freaking mechanic. I don't know. Like
testimonies are important.
Yeah.
And I think one mistake we made towards the beginning of my credit stacking offer was we weren't as proactive on getting ongoing testimonies and asking for ongoing Trustpilot reviews. So for example, one thing that happened was we started to see some negative Trustpilot reviews, because the ones that have a bad time, they're always the loudest. So they're the ones that go, I'm going to go leave a review. They'll go leave it. And we weren't asking way more people that are having a good experience. Oh, can you please go share that on Trustpilot? So I think in any product or service, like have an ongoing strategy of getting either reviews, testimonies, case studies, like our interview, talking to people.
Yeah.
So an ongoing strategy on that is important.
That's so important. Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about. Like if I ask you to think of your favorite restaurant, unless it's like some mega restaurant that everybody is like obsessed with, they probably have a rating online that like doesn't actually reflect your experience, right? And they get that rating because they're not actively going and asking for that, the positive ones. It's unfortunate how that works, right? But anyway, so you start helping people, you get 10 testimonials, and you're like, okay, not only does this work for me, it works for other people, and here's proof. When do you kind of put the gas on this as a business model and start to scale? Maybe you scaled your team. Like when you realize that this has some legs, what were like the first things that you guys started to change or increase to like get this to become an actual real business?
For sure, it was running ads. At the beginning, it was, prove the concept with organic leads through the content, through podcast interviews when I started many years ago. Prove it with organic. I think it's very difficult to go straight into paid traffic, very risky to do. So prove it with organic leads and then turn the gas on with ads. And when you turn the gas on with ads, it is an absolute beast. There's a lot to manage. There's the marketing team, which is part of like the media buyer, the guy running the ads. There's the strategy of what to put in the video, the creative, then the copy. And then there's the sales team, and then the marketing and sales team you're coordinating the conversations back and forth, and sales might be blaming marketing of like the leads aren't quality enough. And marketing is saying, you guys aren't working hard enough. But the ads is where things really can get complex.
Yeah. And it's probably pretty easy for you to go and present this to people, given you're experiencing it firsthand positively. But when you have a company, like any big company has salespeople or growing company has salespeople, what was it like bringing in other people to present this opportunity on your behalf? Was it easy? Was it difficult? Because managing a sales team is a whole thing in itself, and we're not going to get too much into that. But when you were bringing on first salespeople, how did that go for you guys?
I definitely like delegating tasks to experts because I'm not an expert on everything, of course. So I'm a big believer of delegating to experts, and whether that be a third-party sales agency, et cetera, I think it can be a very good route to take for sure. And so, I would find good experts that I can trust so I feel good about them presenting my offer on my behalf to other people.
I'm curious. I wouldn't be surprised if you had an example here, but you guys have been running it for a while. I'm sure you've had people come and go on the sales team. Have you ever had people on the sales team take what they learned from working with you and go and start a business and then like quit working with you because they had success with it? Because that's like a thing in this space.
Yeah. I have had sales reps kind of do it on the side. And as long as their numbers with us weren't bad, we didn't have a problem with it, But if numbers were affected and they weren't showing up and their attention to detail was lacking and they weren't high on the board, then it's an issue.
Yeah, I know a lot of people in this space that have that happen. And not saying it's a bad thing. Like if you like them, you want them to have their best life and do good things for themselves. But I know somebody right now who's running an ad, and the beginning of the ad says, my last 3 salespeople quit because they learned how to do what it is that we teach, and now they make way more money with that. Let's talk a little bit about, the salespeople combined with the credit, how they can start taking advantage of it. Yeah. I know you mentioned it might be more useful to talk about like getting prepared to make a move, whether it's e-commerce or real estate or something that you're kind of eyeing. Made up scenario here. We have a high paid, I don't know if it makes a difference, W-2 or 1099, but high paid sales rep, let's call it W-2, been making money for a little bit, and they know all these people doing cool business stuff. They got their eye on something, but they know it's going to be expensive. Like, what is your initial checklist for that person to get ready to get funded, basically?
Yeah. And I think for people who might not have their own business yet, and they're eyeing that to be in the next couple months, 6 months, 1-2 years, et cetera, I think it's very important to prepare yourself in terms of building strong credit and understanding how to get access to money, doing that before you need access to money, because it can take some time. One, you need to understand the strategies around it. You need to take steps to do things like optimize your credit profile, which makes it attractive to the underwriters. You want to do things with specific banks strategically to build those banking relationships, and that can take time. And what you don't want to end up is in a scenario where you need $100,000 and you weren't preparing, and now you can't get that $100,000 because you're not ready for it. Mm-hmm. So to get ready for it, I would do 2 topics of main things. So one is going to be optimizing the credit profile, and 2, building strategic bank relationships. So on the bank relationship side, I highly recommend for everyone to do their business checking at Chase. Chase being number 1, Bank of America being number 2, and then Wells Fargo being number 3. So things like either your personal checking account there, preferably your business checking account at those banks, and show those banks revenue. That's going to make them trust you. And the longer you're a banking customer, the more they're going to trust you. And so it makes it easier to get approved on cards in the future. On the personal credit side, this is a several layer strategy, but on a basic level, you want to, 1, make sure your payment history is clean. If it's not clean, start working with a credit repair company as soon as possible. Remove late payments, remove anything that's negative on your payment history. If you're in pretty good standing right now, one thing you'd want to do is build up your credit limits over time. So someone who has only $10,000 of collective credit limits on personal cards, that's a very low amount of collective limits. I see the ideal amount of collective limits is between $40,000 and $80,000 if you add up all your personal credit limits. So if you are not in that 40 to 80K range, you would want to apply for 1 to 2 cards every 6 months until you can build up those accounts and those collective limits. And so when people apply for personal cards, I think it's very important to be strategic about what personal cards they're applying for. You want to consider, are they at a tier 1 bank? Like the top 4 banks, Chase, Bank of America, Citi, Wells Fargo. Does that card give high limits on it? You want it to give high limits. And then are those cards at a bank that's worth building a relationship at? For me, I only care about building relationships with banks that have 0% cards. Okay, so like Citi does not have 0% business credit cards. So I don't personally care to build a relationship with Citibank. It's one example there. So on my high limit personal credit card list, I'd put the Chase Freedom Unlimited, the Chase Sapphire Preferred or the Reserve, the Built card, which is issued by Wells Fargo. So those 3 cards right there, and there's more on the list, but I'd put those at the first 3. Those are cards from tier 1 banks, so they look better on your profile, more attractive to underwriters. they're at a bank that has 0% cards. So you're building that credit relationship with Chase and Wells Fargo, and they're going to give you most likely a high limit on that card. So it builds up your collective personal credit limit. So that is some of the first steps I would take to put yourself in a better position.
Yeah.
And like one thing people can do on two specific banks that are important, like Bank of America, it's incredibly important to build a relationship with, mainly on the banking side, but getting a personal card at Bank of America can be very helpful. At American Express, I would skip the bank account and then just get either a personal credit card or like the business gold card. The business gold card is this card for anyone watching the video, and it's a charge card. So it's very easy to get approved for this card. There's no credit limit, but this is a good first card to get at American Express. Have this card for several months. So by the time you're applying for their 0% card, which is a blue card, they're going to give you a much higher limit on the 0% card for 12 months.
I always thought the blue card was like more of the elementary American Express card.
So it's easy to get approved for, but it's not easy to get a high limit. So this is the Amex Blue Business Plus. And there's also the Blue Business Cash. They look the same, slightly different. It's very easy to get approved for this, but 2K limit, 5K limit, 6K. I like to help people get a 25K limit times 2 for each of the cards. So you only do that. You only get 25K limits if you build that credit relationship with American Express. And you do that by either having a personal card with them for many months, or you get the business gold card, which I think is a great card. You have this card for several months leading up to the 0% credit application.
And when you say, it's important to be very selective in which you're choosing, is it because when you apply to like many at the same time or you do all this at once, like it can negatively affect? Is that why you say?
Yeah. So every credit application, personal or business, you're going to get a hard inquiry. It's pretty easy to get the hard inquiries removed, but on a personal credit card account that you get approved for, that hard inquiry, you don't want to dispute and get removed. So a lot of people will make the mistake and they'll apply for too many personal credit cards too quickly. And then that will lead to business credit applications getting denied for, quote, too many recently opened accounts. And that is very hard to get around. So as I briefly mentioned earlier, you would never want to apply for more than 1 or 2 personal credit cards every 6 months. So if you're only going to do 1 or 2 in 6 months, you want to be very strategic with what personal credit card that is. You don't want to apply for a Capital One personal card because that card is going to pull credit from all 3 bureaus. It's going to give you 3 hard inquiries, not just 1. And as I mentioned, you can't get those personal inquiries removed on an open personal account. So that would be a big mistake. And then it'd be a big mistake of getting a personal credit card at a credit union because that's a tier 3 bank, not a tier 1 bank. And that credit union probably doesn't have a 0% card. You're wasting your time there. I think people should be very strategic about what they're doing. And then in addition, when you get these cards like at Chase, for example, or the Built card from my high limit personal credit card list, that gives you points when you pay rent. And the Chase cards give you great points. And Chase and Built are great programs to earn points in because those are programs that have bank transferable points to different airlines and hotels, which you can get 10 times more value by transferring the points. So that's like the bonus there. I don't even emphasize the points, but that's like the 4th reason you want to get those cards.
That trip that we went to in Japan, pretty much everybody's getting out there in, first business class. These are international flights. I went economy because I didn't know that I had points. I have a lot of points because I run ads. But I went on a trip since and I figured out the game. I was like, no, I'm not sitting back here again. But I feel like that's the benefit that most people know is out there when it comes to credit. They're like, yeah, I should get a credit card, like pay it off like a debit card and use points. But there's also what you're talking about is like, no, dude, like you can build a very strong and powerful foundation for any venture that you might want to go and pursue. Side tangent here, because it might be applicable to the audience. With what you do, is there a separation between like credit repair, which is more of like getting people out of the hole versus what you do, which is like helping people get access to more, or kind of the same game?
Yeah. So my focus, what I'm absolute best at is help small business owners get access to 0% interest business credit cards with high limits.
Okay.
So they can use that money to scale their business or real estate investors to do more deals. That's my focus. I also have a credit repair offer, a service that helps people get negative items from their payment history, like late payments or collections or charge-offs, removed from their credit profile. And it was very easy for us to add that service to our company because we have a big team of people that are experts on credit, and it just goes hand in hand. People need to get things removed so they can join our business funding service program to help them get the capital.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to present some vulnerability for maybe the audience that is listening, that maybe they're listening to this and they're like, yeah, dude, this is all cool and dandy, but like my credit is not where I want it to be. It's not where it was. It's not where I know it can be. So I had a personal experience. I always had good credit, like 800 plus. And I opened a credit card, put something on it, and I forgot about it for a long time. And I couldn't figure out how to get into the account and got busy as a business owner. And like, long story short, credit took a big hit and I didn't realize it until it happened. And now from there, we're back up, but we're not where we used to be. And so for someone that's watching this, that's like, Jack, what you're saying about getting all this credit, like it sounds awesome, but I don't even know if I'm there. Like, what would you say to that person who has that blemish? Do you have to go and work with a professional, or is there ways that they can improve their situation to then qualify better? Or what would you say?
Yeah, great question. So payment history is the most important in the last 2 years, but late payments can really tank your score, as you've just been talking about. Quick side note, that's why it's also very important to build strong credit. So if something like that happens, it doesn't bring your score down as much. Like if someone only has 1 or 2 credit card accounts and they're getting on-time payments on those 2 accounts, imagine having 10 accounts. All 10 of those accounts are getting on-time payments every time. So when you get 1 late payment, which would still suck, it's not going to be as big of a blow because you have so many on-time payments over the last 10 years. So you want to be building strong credit on many accounts. To your question though, there are ways to dispute the late payment or charge-off collection yourself. And I teach that in my credit stacking program very effectively for sure. But you can also hire a credit repair professional who can do it for a pretty insignificant amount of money. It's a bit tedious, takes some time. I personally would just pay a professional. And like we have a service, it's simplerepairservices.com. Very inexpensive way to get any late payments, collections removed from your credit report in as little as 2 months, possibly 6 to 8 months. But like anything is disputable and removable. Like there's very good consumer credit laws that protect consumers like us, where if the bureaus can't prove certain things in a specific short time frame, then they have to remove that late payment or collection.
As you were talking about this a little bit more, I'm starting to realize the card that I opened and forgot about, not only did I forget about it, but it was with, I think you called a tier 3
credit union.
I think. I'm not entirely sure. So anyways, for you guys watching, if you were thinking that, now that they have a little bit of peace of mind that they're not doomed, let's keep building in the direction we're going.
Definitely not doomed.
Okay, cool. So you mentioned, here's the list on the business side, the personal side, you should be proactive in getting yourself prepared. Now they get prepared. Maybe they have a dream, but not an idea of, how that dream comes to life, meaning they want to run a business, but they're not sure. What are some like common things that you have seen people like gain access to credit for and then go on and invest and grow businesses that way? Like what common businesses?
Definitely the most common business that I've helped with is real estate fix and flippers. So if you have an extra 200, even 100 grand, like you can do more deals with 100 grand. So a lot of people do real estate fix and flips. A lot of people who do Airbnb arbitrage for sure, where they can rent a house on a monthly basis, long-term, rent it out short-term. Very good model for 0% interest business credit. People that are in e-commerce, so if they need to buy more inventory or scale up their ads more and they know they're going to get a good return, also a very good business model. People in trade businesses where they know if they could get access to more equipment, a better truck, better equipment, whatever their trade is, that they can get bigger gigs and make more money. That's also a very good option. It really works for a lot of different business models. And then one more thing to add is just like from my experience in business and from what I've seen in my private community is, okay, when you bring on debt, to a degree, it can increase the risk. For example, if you can't pay it back in 12 months, then there's credit card interest, which is 20 to 30%. And we have strategies to balance transfer and get 0% for longer. But there is a risk of bringing on debt from the bank. I do think that when you bring on debt and you have access to more money and it's good debt, there is a higher chance of succeeding in that business. Because if you can move faster at the beginning, I think it becomes easier. If you just move very slow, it's more difficult because you have all these overhead costs. And if you're only bringing in a couple sales or a small amount of volume, it's very costly just based on the overhead. So you need to scale quick at the beginning to then, reduce that overhead percentage of the sales. And so when you have an extra 50 grand, I think it's easier.
I've heard you say that before. Yeah, basically, it's actually easier to make these businesses work if you have access to this and you can move faster. But you did bring up a good point, which is definitely, I mean, not a huge concern, but something that exists, right? Like there is risk in this, right? Like you give the wrong person, $100,000 of credit and they don't know what the hell they're doing. They're going to put themselves into a pretty bad spot. So I'm curious with that kind of stuff, like, obviously you're in the business of making people's lives and businesses better, right? How do you go about making sure that people are making smart decisions? And ultimately, maybe that doesn't fall on you, but at the same time, you probably want to give them guidance where you can, right?
Yeah, for sure. Again, like ultimately, I'm not advising them where to spend the money or responsible, but I absolutely hope they're putting it to amazing use. And I see that in successful case studies all the time of them making more money. And that's, of course, the goal. But things do come at a risk. And, sometimes the business doesn't work out as planned and you got to pivot and your back's against the wall and you need to change the marketing strategy or potentially even change the business to, make the money and get actually like on the front foot again. But I think it's important to take risks.
Yeah.
Like if you're just going to not take risks, I think the biggest risk is not taking risks. It's a cliche statement, but it's very true. Like if you're just going to sit back in golden handcuffs and make the 150 grand a year, whatever it is, there's going to be probably some hard stuff coming in the future. I think it's better to take those hard experiences now, those risks now, when you're a little bit younger. Maybe you don't have kids yet, and now's the time, especially with like AI coming in and replacing a bunch of jobs. I don't think things are going to get easier. It doesn't appear to be. I don't know. I think now's the time to really claim your freedom, take those risks, build that business, get that ownership, own real estate, own a business.
Business is risky with or without credit. I actually, believe it or not, you probably know this too. Like I know full-on adults that just still don't have credit at all. And they run into unfortunate circumstances and they're like, can't pay for this,
Yeah, they can't pay for it or they'll get a high interest rate on a mortgage. And when you look at the difference of interest you're paying on a mortgage, if it's a 5%, 6%, 7%, a 1% difference is a massive amount of money. I didn't realize that for a long time. Like 1% different on a mortgage is a ton of money. Even on a car, it's a ton. So, I mean, there's many benefits of building strong credit. And I think the most important thing, like especially if you're a business owner or you're looking to get into business, is like it is much more favorable if you know you can get access to 100 grand when you need it. It is a night and day difference of what you can do.
Yeah. I know you currently, like I've seen you post, have some Airbnbs, or I don't know if there's Airbnbs or just rentals, or maybe you have both, but I'd assume you're using a combination of your business acumen and, growing sales teams, running businesses, and a combination of that with credit and the credit stacking thing to pursue like your investments and stuff of that nature. So for the salespeople that are listening to this, or managers or business owners that are like, what's actually possible with this, from your own personal experience, under the assumption that you're using strategies to build, your own portfolio of real estate and all that, what is possible over the course of like a year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years? Like, how does that compound if you actively pursue like the credit stacking stuff?
What's possible in terms of approvals and limits you can get?
Yeah. Or just like the effects. I know general credit stuff, but like when it comes to like playing the credit game to invest and like grow your net worth and all that, like I'm not as familiar. So I'm curious for someone who's like, I want to do big things and I'm just like, I can't fully see how this could pan out if I do it right. Like maybe from your own experience or someone else, people in your program, like how they've been able to really just like change their situation or up level what they've got going on.
I mean, it just gives you a much bigger runway and more to work with. And so whether you're buying a rental property and you need to furnish it, if you're renting it on Airbnb, put the furnishings on the 0% card. You spend 20 grand on the furnishings, whatever the number is. The banks want you to lend money at 0% for your benefit. And so try to find ways where you can leverage that, keep more of your personal money. If you have savings, keep that in things like the stock market and Bitcoin, long-term investments, and then try to find ways to put short-term investments on these credit cards. So for me on the Airbnb, fantastic. I've bought Bitcoin miners on 0% business cards. Then you have the business lines of credit that come at 10% interest. So there's several ways to get creative with leveraging the debt. Again, like fix and flippers can just do more deals because they have access to more money. Like right now, what I'm going to do is I just got 45 grand on these brand new 0% cards. I'm going to buy more Bitcoin miners on these 0% cards, and I'm going to get a good tax deduction on these Bitcoin miners. So I'm going to get that tax deduction in this year, and then it kicks the can down the road a year until I need to pay those cards off. Does it increase my risk a little bit? It does a little bit. Am I going to get a nice tax deduction, which is going to save me a pretty good amount of money this year? Yes, it is. And am I going to be mining Bitcoin, which I'm a huge believer in? Yes, I am. So for me, it makes perfect sense to make that investment, for example.
I hope that me being naive to the credit stacking game is helping the audience. But is the game just always playing the 0% stuff? Or is that just like, hey, in the beginning, it's going to be 0%. Then you got to learn how to do with whatever they give you? Or how does that work?
Yeah. So I'd say it's 3-part. There's the 0% interest business credit cards that give you the 0% interest. So you can invest with that money on short-term investment, relatively short-term investments. 2 is the points that come with all these cards, which we've talked about briefly. But the points, you get the free travel. You can do cool trips like fly business class round trip to Japan. I've been traveling business class around the world like for the last 5 years. No money out of my pocket to fly these types of flights. So that's the number 2. Number 3 is the business lines of credit. So business lines of credit, you do have to pay interest when you borrow from them, about 10% APR, give or take a couple of percent. And the benefit of those is you can pull from the business line of credit very easy. It almost serves as a bank account that you can just transfer money into your bank account to and from. It's very easy. Your business does have to be 2 years old. It does not exactly need to be making revenue because there's some banks that will give you a no doc business line of credit, which means they don't need to see tax returns. They're just looking at your strong personal credit. But I do think a combination of having the 0% cards, having the reward cards that earn you points, and then having a business line of credit, maybe 2 or maybe even 3 of them, is a very powerful combination. The business lines of credit can come into play on several different things. Like if I can use 50 grand from a business line of credit to put as a down payment on a real estate property at 10% interest, that can possibly work. If you want to use that money as a down payment when you're acquiring a business, that could potentially work. And then you use the cash flow of the business to pay off that business line of credit or the 0% card. If you need to use the business line of credit to pay down the balance of a 0% card, so you can then apply for another 0% card and then move the old available credit from the old card to the new card, liquidate the credit, pay off the business line of credit, that's a more advanced strategy. But there are many creative ways to use these credit products side by side for a variety of different investments or businesses.
I'm super interested in this stuff. I feel like I could ask you a lot of questions. I don't know if they're going to be as relevant to the podcast, but I do think we're pushing up on our time too. Last thing I wanted to ask you is, again, with our audience in mind, who these people are and what they're probably interested in. What is one thing that I didn't ask you that would be extremely useful for those people to know in the game of credit and credit stacking?
I think I want to use this time to answer the question on 2 main emphases.
Yeah.
One being, I think it's very important to define freedom. I don't think there's enough people right now that know what freedom exactly means to them. And specifically, they're not taking tangible steps to pursue that freedom. For me, it's financial independence through business and entrepreneurship, flying my own airplane, doing the tactical training so I'm protected if I need, and many other things. But people need to define what that is. I see too many people just lollygagging through life. They're having too much fun for the sake of having fun. Now, I don't really have fun for the sake of having fun. I have fun flying my plane, but I'm also flying the plane to get better at a skill. I'm tactical training to get better at a skill, and that is fun. So I just think people need to take massive action on securing freedom for themselves and their family or future family. I think that's very important. And one thing that I would just wish I would have done differently in business was work on credit and become an expert at credit much sooner than I did. I was 7 or 8 years into entrepreneurship before I started to figure this out. And then it took me several years to really become a master at it like I am now. That was 10 years into being an entrepreneur. If I knew this stuff at the beginning, it would have been a different ballgame. So I do think taking actions to prepare yourself, build strong credit. If you have negative payment history, clean that up now. Don't wait. Build those relationships with the right banks, the banks that have the 0% cards, and take the risk. Take calculated risks, but don't keep those golden handcuffs on. Make sure you're learning, take the risk. I don't think things are going to get easier. You need ownership of things, ownership of assets like real estate, Bitcoin, a business. And that should probably be where you're allocating a lot of focus, or at least a lot of, money, education. You want to be getting versed on those things. That's what I believe.
That was good, dude. It was a really good episode. You guys, if you do not follow Jack, we're going to put all his links down below. What's your main platform? Is it Instagram?
Yeah, Instagram, Jack McColl with an O. And then our website is creditstacking.com/podcast. Credit stacking for anyone interested to get access to business funding.
Sweet. I might have to hit y'all up.
Yeah. But thank you, Dylan.
Right.
Hopefully that was good for your listeners. Thank you, guys.
I appreciate it. Thanks for watching, y'all. All right, guys, that was the episode with Jack. Honestly, really good one. I got to meet him, if you heard in the podcast, on a mastermind trip to Japan. And we talked briefly there, but this was a longer conversation, longer than any that we had there. It was cool to honestly hear a little bit more about his story. Super solid entrepreneur, has a lot going for him outside of business itself, which is great. And just a very well-rounded guy that, a lot of people I know have great things to say about him. So if you guys enjoyed that, go down below, check out Jack's stuff, especially if you are looking to build business credit, you're a sales rep trying to leverage into something bigger. Go down below, check out Jack's stuff. And before we leave, I'm going to ask you one more time, go down to the first link in description, subscribe to our free newsletter. We want to make sales easier for you so that through sales, you can live your dream life, whether that's with your family, a dream location, you want to travel, you want to be top 1% athlete, whatever is important to you. We want to help you create leverage through your sales job so you can do those things easier. Every week, less than a 5-minute read, 100% free in your inbox. Stay up to date with what is working for the best in the world. Go down below, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next episode. Thank you guys for watching.